A Philadelphia landlord is suing for more than $170,000 after his place was trashed by an Airbnb tenant who became a squatter and refused to leave. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over a topic I don't cover that often, but it's Airbnb and the whole short-term rental craze. I know there's a lot of landlords out there right now who have Airbnbs and they make a ton of money, right? But I've always been a little bit apprehensive about it because I've heard these nightmare scenarios where they have a party in your place, they completely trash it. Airbnb as a company doesn't cover it, and you know what? You end up just taking this huge loss. Plus, I've heard that, just the whole thing operates more like a hotel, which means it's a lot more intensive when it comes to what you have to do as a property manager or as a landlord. So I've been kind of apprehensive about it. Now I actually have a duplex down in Kansas City, and one of the units in it was an Airbnb when I purchased it, and I considered for a little while just continuing to operate it as an Airbnb, but I just realized, hey, I don't know what I'm doing in this field, and I would much rather have something that was hands off, something where I can just sit there and make minor decisions. The tenants are happy, they stay in there long term, and I don't have to worry about anything. Okay, and so I didn't do an Airbnb, even though I wanted to experiment with it. Now, the other issue with Airbnb right now is a lot of cities are coming up with laws, rules, and regulations that are making it much more difficult to just operate. Some of cities have outright banned them. They don't like them. They don't want them in residential neighborhoods. They want to tax you extra or penalize you for operating them. And so I'm just kind of like, well, you know what, I think I'll pass for now. I'll see how things play out. But I know I could possibly be giving up a ton of money. I know that there are landlords out there who have made a ton of money off of these things, right? But I'm just not ready for that right now. And I know a lot of the other landlords I know, they've said similar things to me. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. What do you think of Airbnb and other short-term rentals? Okay, do you have any? Do you own any short-term rentals right now? Have you considered it? And if you have them, how is it going for you? If you decided against it, why did you decide against it? Go ahead and put a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the whole thing. But the story I'm going to be covering today, it's kind of a nightmare scenario. It's one of those stories where, oh man, it's awful for the person who's going through it, but you know what? It might be the perfect reason why, you or I decide not to go ahead and do it right now. So this article is coming from thedailymail.co.uk, and it says, Philadelphia landlord is suing Airbnb for $170,000 after squatters trashed his home, refused to leave for 3 months, and struck him with a baseball bat when he tried to get back in. Whew, man, that's a pretty intense story right there, right? It has a few little bullet points under the title, and it says, a Philadelphia landlord is suing Airbnb for $170,000 after squatters trashed his home, refused to leave, and struck him with a baseball bat when he tried to get in. Joseph Foresta says the short-term rental app is responsible for the damages and lost income caused by a man who paid for a one-night stay on June 13th, 2020. A man named Lawrence H. Jackson made the one-night reservation according to the lawsuit, and Airbnb collected the payment. So yeah, the guy booked for a single night and ended up squatting in this house for 3 months. Now, I don't know if they're going to go over the details of what this guy had to do to get this guy out of there, but we'll see in just a moment. So yeah, this article, it's from the Daily Mail. I don't like using the Daily Mail as a source because if you ever visit their website, it's like you get 1,000 pop-ups and all this garbage, videos playing and all that nonsense. So I'll put a link to the article in there. View it at your own. Just be cautious when you view it because it's just this site is overwhelming. A Philadelphia landlord sued Airbnb for $170,000 after squatters trashed his home, refused to leave, and struck him with a baseball bat when he tried to get back in. Joseph Foresta stated in the lawsuit the short-term rental app is responsible for the damages and lost income caused by a man who paid for a one night stay on June 13th, 2020, before squatting for 3 months. The landlord claimed he listed the property believing Airbnb thoroughly vetted prospective guests, according to the Pennsylvania record. And as far as I know, that's just not the case. Okay. This isn't a landlord or a regular landlord and tenant situation we're talking about here, where before the person can even move into your property, you're going to have, their driver's license, you're going to have background investigation, you're going to have their eviction history, their credit history. You're going to have a ton of information on this person. You're going to call up their employer to make sure they actually have a job. You're going to call up their previous landlords to make sure they're actually a good tenant. And some landlords even require references. Okay, so yeah, you have a lot more information about a regular tenant than you ever will about somebody who is a guest from Airbnb. Yet at the same time, you're putting them in your property just like you would a regular tenant. So there is just as much risk of property damage. There is just as much risk that this person is going to screw you over. I think one of the things that people they get sight of the money, right? They see the money and they say, okay, it's worth taking this risk. And maybe it is in a lot of cases. Like I said, I know so many people who've done this and made just a ton of money, but I'm still fearful as of right now. In the lawsuit filed last month, he alleged he was struck in the head and stomach with a baseball, and his life was threatened when he tried to access the property. Foresta is seeking $170,000 in lost rental income and repair costs, along with interest, attorney's fees, and other costs incurred by the squatting, which is an increasing problem across the U.S. Yeah, and here's the thing, right? If you go into this property, right, and this person is a guest, I don't know how the law works. Does and you know what? And the truth of the matter is that it is totally dependent on where this property is located as well. So this property being located in Philadelphia, which is a more left-leaning progressive city, might be that, hey, if you go into that property, well, you have no rights whatsoever to self-defense. This person instantly, the second they get in there, is now a tenant, and they have to go through the eviction process. I don't know. I don't know. But if you're up in the Philadelphia area, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that in the comments. But like I imagine, hey, if I go up into my property, it's a Airbnb, and the guest only had one day to stay in there, and I go up in there, and then the person attacks me with a baseball bat. Well, they're going to get shot. Okay, I'm just going to be plain and simple. I'm not going to just get attacked in my place and leave that person and like, hey, you're not even supposed to be here. You're not you don't live here. This is essentially my house. You don't have a lease. You need to go. And if you attack me, well, you could be leaving in a body bag. Okay, that's how serious this sort of thing is. Now, obviously, that's not what happened in this situation. I don't want to see people get hurt, but at the same time, you know what? When somebody attacks you, you have to defend yourself. Okay, that is the truth. And I just don't know if the law would have the property owners back if something like that were to happen. He believes Airbnb is responsible for the safety of the host property from any damage caused by guests and for their overstay beyond their paid reservation. A man named Lawrence H. Jackson made the one night reservation according to the lawsuit, and Airbnb collected the payment. The lawsuit does not specify how much the reservation cost. But a day later, on June 14th, the guest refused to leave and stayed there until Foresta was able to obtain a court order for police to remove him on September 9th of 2020. So yeah, the guy wouldn't leave until there was a court order that forcibly removed him. That's awful. That's absolutely awful. Okay. Now, yeah, I don't know if this is on Airbnb or not. I don't know what their policies are. I don't know what standing you have, right, against the company of Airbnb. What I do know is that squatters are scumbags. Okay, they are scumbags. I don't consider that, even if they have a fake lease, right? They don't have any right to be there. They have no right to be there. And there's no reason why the police shouldn't have removed this guy in particular for trespassing immediately. Yeah, you had a temporary guest arrangement, but that's like saying, oh well, you own a hotel, right? And you have a guest who refuses to leave their hotel room. Well, the hotel can trespass that person. Why can't you do that with your Airbnb? It makes no sense whatsoever why the law looks at this differently, and that might be a serious consideration that you have to take when thinking about opening up an Airbnb. They're not going to treat you like they do a hotel. They're going to treat you as though this is a rental house and you have to go through the civil eviction process to be able to get rid of people who decide they want to stay. And that's a bad deal, in my opinion.